Bitcoin seems to finally be taking a breather after a monstrous week, jumping nearly 30% and hitting just above $93,000 yesterday. So have we topped? Or are we just warming up for another big run? If we're not done yet, how high can Bitcoin go? What is the total addressable market for Bitcoin? Today, we dive in to discuss all the possibilities this cycle and beyond, as I attempt to answer the age-old question that comes up every single cycle. Am I too late to Bitcoin? What a week. I gotta say, I'm pretty relieved to see Bitcoin taking a breather here today, as the rocket boosters seem to have cooled off and we begin a little bit of a consolidation just below $90,000 per coin. Now, this obviously could be short-lived, as we're clearly in uncharted territory and early in price discovery mode. And positive news just keeps dropping, as today, Pennsylvania's House of Representatives introduced a bill to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve. This was just another logical step in the direction towards a strategic reserve at the national level, and a positive sign as we will likely see other states introducing similar bills in the coming months. On top of that, the ETF inflows just keep coming. As senior ETF analyst for Bloomberg, Eric Balchunas, writes yesterday, "I thought things were cooling off, but no. IBIT just saw $5 billion in volume today for the first time ever. Only 3 ETFs and 8 stocks saw more action today, up to $13 billion in 3 days this week. Its peers seeing heightened volume too, but smaller scale. FBTC did $1 billion, its biggest day since March." Also from Balchunas today, as year-to-date ETF flows get closer to the $1 trillion mark. He says, so close. ETF flows year-to-date are up to $909 billion, a mere $1 billion shy of breaking an annual record. They are having one hell of a second half, already the best half ever recorded with $489 billion. And here's the thing, historically speaking, December is the best month for flows. $1 trillion is looking good. And this one from James Seifert, also from Bloomberg. US spot Bitcoin ETFs now own an estimated 1.07 million Bitcoin. As a group, they're likely to pass Satoshi's estimated holdings of 1.1 million BTC in the next few days or weeks. So this rally seems to be largely on the backs of ETF flows, as investor sentiment following the Trump victory continues to benefit Bitcoin. VanEck's head of digital research, Matthew Siegel, was on CNBC yesterday talking about why he thinks this rally is just getting started.
The price of Bitcoin briefly hitting the $93,000 level before pulling back. It's up more than 150% this year. Let's talk about the crypto market and bring in Matthew Siegel, head of digital assets research at VanEck. I thought, Matt, that it was definitely long in the tooth, this sort of mania. You say there's, at least for your work, that you don't necessarily see that yet in terms of whether it's totally overdone?
Joe, we think it's just getting started. As we expected, Bitcoin saw this high volatility pump after the election. We're now in blue sky territory, no technical resistance, and we think we're likely to make repeated all-time highs over the next 2 quarters. The same pattern played out 4 years ago. Between the election and the end of the year in 2020, Bitcoin doubled. There were about 10% corrections, so it's not going to be a straight line, but we're up 30% so far, and a number of indicators that we track are still flashing green for this rally to continue. This is a state change in terms of government support. Look at this cabinet: the VP, Attorney General, Director of Defense, National Security Advisor, possibly even the Secretary of Treasury being pro-Bitcoin. That's not including Elon and VanEck. So the number of calls that I'm getting inbound from investment advisors who are at 0 and looking to get to 1%, or at 1% and looking to get to 3%, these calls are starting to accelerate, and we think the flows are going to follow. So our price target for this cycle is 180K. We think we can reach that next year. That would be 1,000% return from the bottom to the peak this cycle. That's still the smallest Bitcoin cycle by far.
And double from here. So Google search for Bitcoin is one of the things. So you would expect, if we were getting toppy, you would expect that was off the charts, and it's not yet?
Google searches are nowhere near where they were 4 years ago. Coinbase's rank in the Apple and Android app stores, nowhere near where it was 4 years ago. Look at the internals of the derivative markets, what it costs for funding to put on Bitcoin futures trades. You know, it's up, but once we get into this price discovery mode, it tends to stay elevated for quite some time.
So Siegel is estimating a $180,000 top in 2025, which even he admits is quite conservative when compared to other cycles. He mentions this move being telegraphed from what happened 4 years ago in late 2020, when Bitcoin quickly doubled leading into the year end. This makes me think about how far we've truly come in the 4 years since then. I remember the overwhelming skepticism around Bitcoin in 2020 was that government regulation would squash it. Well, fast forward to today, and it's that skepticism that has been completely squashed, as Bitcoin has received overwhelmingly positive regulation, and as Siegel pointed out, the Trump cabinet is full of Bitcoin supporters. Plus, you have to take into account Trump's newly formed Department of Government Efficiency, headed by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, I just gotta say, it's quite ironic that a new bureaucratic government department has sprung up in order to quell government inefficiency and cut spending. Kinda hilarious. But I digress. Elon Musk, who holds some Bitcoin on the Tesla and SpaceX balance sheets, posted this on X early this morning. The excess government spending is what causes inflation. All government spending is taxation. This is a very important concept to appreciate. It is either direct taxation like income tax or indirect inflation due to increasing the money supply. This is something straight out of the mouth of Austrian economists and Bitcoin maximalists, and Elon now holds an important position to help increase government efficiency. Wild times. So how high can Bitcoin go this cycle and beyond? What happens if the Trump administration actually follows through with plans on creating a U.S. National Strategic Reserve of Bitcoin? Mike Novogratz, CEO of Galaxy Digital, was on Bloomberg Open Interest yesterday talking about the chances of a strategic Bitcoin reserve, inflation, and where Bitcoin is headed.
I want to get back to crypto here, and I want to talk about the possibility of a Bitcoin strategic reserve. You think about this rally that we're seeing in Bitcoin, which is one of the purest supply and demand markets. And one of the reasons I keep hearing is that there's a lot of optimism that we could see the United States government buy up to $1 million worth of Bitcoin. Now that you do have all these crypto advocates in Congress, are you confident that we could see something like that?
I still think it's a low probability, right? You know how Congress works. The House gets excited or the executive gets excited and the Senate says, calm down, right? That's the role of the Senate. And while the Republicans control the Senate, they don't have 60 seats. They don't have close to 60. And so listen, I think it would be very smart for the United States to take the Bitcoin they have and maybe add some to it and say, we want to show the world that we're going to be a technology first country, a crypto digital asset first country. I don't necessarily think the dollar needs anything to back it up. We have the strongest military in the world. We have the dominant economy in the world and the reserve currency we've earned. And to need to back up the reserve currency is counterintuitive. And so, again, listen, if we get the Bitcoin reserve, and as a guy that owns a lot of Bitcoin, I will not cry. And if you see me crying, there'll be crocodile tears. I think Bitcoin heads to 500,000. Again, it's a whole different paradigm because it forces every other country in. Countries are already buying it. I've got a dear friend, the guy that actually turned me on to Bitcoin in 2013, who's in the Mideast right now, and he said he's never seen anything like it. He's convincing more people to buy Bitcoin in the 3 days he's been there than any time in his whole career. And they're huge pools of capital. And so we're seeing something globally. When Trump advocated in Nashville that he was going to be a crypto president, a Bitcoin president, and now he's the president, let me tell you, other leaders heard that. And so I think we're strapping in for what could be an amazing rally.
I want to get back to your point on, hyperinflation, Mike, or at least more than 4%. I look at a longer term chart of Bitcoin, say 5 years, and in that run up, post or during COVID, I always see an inflation indicator here. I know that there was a lot of helicopter money that helped out as well as people being home with nothing to do, but to me, it was an indication that at least this community saw massive inflation coming, and that was borne out. Do you not see the most recent run-up as the same sort of signal?
Yeah, listen, so when the government's printing as much money as the Bitcoin narrative, the only narrative really for Bitcoin is it's a hard asset in a world where you're going to debase fiat currencies. Like, that's the story. Forget any other story. Like, when Bitcoin, they say, oh, we're going to be level 2s and we're going to do NFTs on it. I always think that just confuses the story.
My eyes glaze over. Yeah.
The story is digital gold. It is a hard asset that's believed to be a hard asset by the people that participate in its community. And it's really hard in a world of populism, not just in the United States, all over the world, for governments to not want to spend more.
How soon do you get to 500,000? That's kind of a stunning level to think about, but you know, we're probably going to hit $100,000 this year if we keep on going at this rate.
Yeah, so listen, the total market cap of gold, I think, is like 16 trillion, right? And so that's 800,000 Bitcoin. So when does Bitcoin become gold? Like, there's a new generation that cares more about Bitcoin than they care about gold. I'm turning 60 next week, and so I still own a bunch of gold. I'm an old guy, but let me tell you, no 40-year-olds on gold, no 30-year-olds on gold. And so as we see this generational shift, like, Bitcoin should match gold within 5 or 10 years. And that gets you to 800,000. That's with current gold prices. I think gold's going higher.
So it seems Max Kaiser isn't the only one saying Bitcoin is coming for the market cap of gold. But even beyond that of gold, how high can Bitcoin actually go? Many of you, I'm sure, are getting messages from friends and family asking if they're too late to Bitcoin. This happens every single cycle without fail. People thought they were too late when it was $100, $1,000, and again when it was $10,000. If you really zoom out and put in the work to understand the fundamentals, you start to see that there is no top to the potential price of Bitcoin. It is by far the best asymmetric investment bet on the planet Earth. And this post on X from Stack Hodler puts it way better than I can. How high can Bitcoin go? Most people can't handle the answer to this question. Right now, it's the 8th most valuable asset in the world. Its market cap is comparable to Google, Amazon, and Saudi Aramco. But Bitcoin has vastly higher upside than those companies. Investors are slowly realizing that Bitcoin is on a path to matching and then surpassing gold's market cap. That's 14x from here, or $875,000 per coin. But even that is just the beginning. How many people do you know that use gold as a primary store of value? Most value is stored in equity indexes, bonds, and real estate. There's roughly 115 trillion in equities, 380 trillion in real estate, 140 trillion in fixed income, which equals 635 trillion in wealth stored in assets that are all inferior to Bitcoin in some crucial way. Equities can be endlessly diluted, rely on business execution, have competitive risk, regulatory risk, trust-busting risk, jurisdictional risk, keyman risk, etc. Real estate has maintenance costs, property taxes, physical risk of deterioration or complete loss, insurance costs, etc. Debt instruments have default risk, currency risk, and no fixed supply. Bitcoin is comparatively simple. Fixed supply, known issuance schedule, neutral, not tied to any single country's future, and can be held indefinitely at zero cost. So instead of comparing Bitcoin to individual equities or gold, we should be asking what percentage of the $635 trillion of wealth it can eat. A modest 10%? That's $3.2 million per coin in today's money. But then the question is, what will the remaining bond, equity, and real estate holders do when Bitcoin is sitting at a $63 trillion market cap and has had 3,200% gain since hitting 100K? Keep in mind, there's no theoretical upper limit for Bitcoin's valuation. Unlike a business that's anchored by its revenue, Bitcoin doesn't become overpriced in the same way. It's meant to suck in all the monetary premium in the world because it's simply the best store of value that humanity has ever seen. And so we return to the earliest price prediction ever made, $10 million per coin. Shortly after receiving the first ever Bitcoin transaction, polymath Hal Finney speculated that Bitcoin could one day reach $10 million per coin. And as we near the $100,000 per coin psychological barrier, that prediction appears more prescient by the day. You are not late to Bitcoin. This journey is just beginning, and you have the rest of your life to enjoy the gains. So you can safely tell all your friends and family that no, you are not too late to Bitcoin. Mark my words, there will be a time in the not too distant future where everyone will think you were lucky to buy in below 100K. So keep calm and double down on your conviction by learning more. There is an overwhelming abundance of excellent resources to learn about this thing. Books, podcasts, online courses, videos, documentaries. Don't just take my or anyone else's word for it. Don't be lazy. Put in the work and learn for yourself. Don't trust, verify. If you're new to the Bitcoin rabbit hole, Swan has curated some of the best resources to get you started. We call it the Bitcoin Canon. Visit swan.com/canon to start your learning journey today. I will also leave a link in the description to the first lesson in our Welcome to Bitcoin course, which is a free introductory course for everyone. Visit swan.com/welcome to sign up and start learning. That's it for today. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like this video and share it with friends and family who are asking if they're too late. And of course, subscribe to the channel for more high signal Bitcoin content. Thanks for watching and enjoy this cool off period because I suspect it's going to be very short lived.